All right, let's call the South Kingstown School Building Committee meeting to order Thursday, March 5th at 8:03. So we have roll call. Brian Sylvia.
Here.
Michael Pedraza.
Here.
Luke Murray.
Here.
Kate Massananti, I'm here. Chip McGarr.
Here.
Terry Lynch. And Jim Manning.
Here.
We also have Gil Bain, Studio Jade, and Left Field here. I don't have with me the meeting minutes for approval, but we will be reinstating that going forward. I personally have not received any public correspondence. None has been sent to me. So we'll move right into new business. Number 4, new business. A, discussion action recommendation for approval of change order task force requests.
All right, good morning, everyone. So the first item up on the agenda is relating to change orders for the South Kingstown High School. This is a follow-up to some previous conversations that we had had, and I'll zoom in here on this one. So we had looked at the finishes in the corridors and the classroom towers and a few of the alternates that we had. The original alternate in the common corridors, which is throughout most of the building, was to add a wall protection in lieu of painted impact-resistant drywall. And alternate number 3 was to provide wall coverings throughout the classroom tower in lieu of the painted drywall, again, being an impact-resistant drywall. So additional pricing was requested of us to include a few different tiers of finish upgrades. In the common corridors, we went up another level to price out ceramic tile in the common corridors on the walls in lieu of the painted drywall. And in the classroom corridors, we went up 2 different tiers, one with the wall protection, which is an impact-resistant wall covering, and another tier up would be to add ceramic tile. So we just wanted to take a look at where those pricing tiers landed us. Try and zoom out a little bit more here so we can put them all on the same screen. Sorry, I'm working with a new computer, so give me a moment. All right, so alternate number 2, the original item that we had looked at in the common corridors, it was $31,802 to upgrade to the wall protection. The additional pricing that we got for the ceramic tile was an upgrade of $189,699, and I'm happy to kind of go through and identify where those locations are. The original alternate for the classroom tower to provide wall coverings in the corridors would be $78,093. The upgrade to wall protection, I think these might be mixed up. The upgrade for wall protection is $110,641, and the upgrade for ceramic wall tile is $168,401. So again, happy to look at locations.
Just a question, right? So I want to be I believe this is correct, but it would be like a choice of $110,000 or $168,000, not combined, correct?
Correct. Okay. Yes, these are all ors.
Has this gone back through? I know we asked for clarification in pricing. Did the task order team also, has this level gone through the task order?
The task force has not reviewed these numbers yet,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
So the only input I have is, because I believe it will have to go back to the task force, is there was two requests. One, the pricing, and two, I think more of the durability aspect, which I think you already have, but I think it's going to be an important aspect to this, is demonstrating the why. If we're going to spend $100,000 extra, is it $100,000 worth of value, or is it not? And sort of a recommendation on that from the architect.
Yeah.
You know, and because that's why we'd be doing it, is more of a durability, not aesthetics.
That's correct. Do you want Phil to come up and speak to that?
No.
Yeah.
Sorry, Phil, I'll put you on the spot there.
I appreciate it coming to us, but I think the piece is, and I shared this in a response to seeing this presentation yesterday. I think because it's going to go back to the, I'm going to say their name wrong every time, the change order task force or whatever they're called. Did I get it? Yeah. So to me, I would love to see this vetted through that group, and then the recommendation comes forward, and then we clearly make a recommendation to the council. I thought that had happened, so that's where I have a little confusion there, but which is fine. Does this need to be decided today? Like, is this a situation where when the council meets on Monday that this decision has to be made already? Or do we have time to get it to the task force and then come back through?
Yeah, this isn't necessarily a time-sensitive item. So we can do that. Yeah, we had presented it to this. I think the request for the additional options was made through the building committee, which is why I brought the requests back through the building committee.
And I appreciate it. It's good to see those numbers because there's a few of them are drastically different, right? But then it goes to the why, and then clearly talking to the experts of the kids who monitor the kids in the hallways. Mm-hmm. They would be the ones to know if we need the extra durability or not. So, okay.
Yeah, happy to table it and convene a meeting with the change order task force.
And if we did elect to go with, say, the ceramic tile, that is also reimbursable?
Correct.
Okay.
In fact, preferred by RIDE. They'd requested it specifically.
Yeah, because and I don't want to usurp the duty of the task force, but, you know, we worry with the paint has yellowed all over the second floor, which is like, it's almost like a half wall, right? But the lockers or the tile are there. We don't ever worry about the shape of the tiles or the lockers from that standpoint. And we're not going to have many lockers in the new building, so it's just something to think about in terms of long-term durability. But ultimately, I'll be interested to see what the task force recommends.
Right. Yes, and as we had mentioned before, the tile will get ugly well before it gets worn out.
Pink is coming back around, just so we're clear.
Thank God.
So plenty of that already in the building if you want to move it over.
All right, so, and green. So does everybody agree we should table this, let the task force deal with it, and let it come back through? All right, perfect. All right, so that brings us to business. I keep wanting now to say number B. Discussion update the new South Kingstown High School project.
All right. I will go through this. I know we've got a lot on our agenda, so please stop me at any point if I'm talking too fast. This is where we are along our red bar of construction. Our 4-week look ahead is really all relating to steel erection and the different areas in the building in which we're currently erecting steel. This, as you can see here, it is a little bit light here, but you can see this is the portion of the steel that has either been erected or is in the process of being erected. Working through Area E currently. Few photos of steel deliveries and steel erection in Area E and sequences 8, 9, and 10, which are these guys right here, the orange, blue, and purple down here. Any questions on where we are currently with the project?
I don't have a question, but for anybody who's not been over at the high school, clearly the school district people have been, this is huge and awesome, but very close. Like, I knew it would be close, but it's close. When I walked into the school committee meeting the other night, I was like, that's close. So it's just from a fascination standpoint, the fact that y'all are pulling this off is amazing. And also, what's kind of wild is at some point, all three buildings will still be there, right? And so I think as a community, we should wrap our heads around that. We're going to have two high schools 12 feet apart, and then the hazard building before the old high school comes down. So it's going to be kind of wild to see. But like I said, if you haven't snooped around, it's like it takes you back a little bit, but it's actually quite awesome.
It's also been getting some comments about how tall it is. Like, I think that was another thing. People were like, oh, it's 3 floors. Well, this is 3 floors, but just just seeing how tall it is, it's like, it's pretty wild too. It's impressive, and they're doing a great job, Mark, moving along here. And it's not like you haven't been throwing curveballs.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Also, as part of our update, I wanted to touch on again the concrete placement that we had discussed at our last meeting relating to potential for after-hours finishing work. Mark, I'll invite you up to assist me on this one. Essentially, the slab pours within the building, based off of the timing being at the end of March and the weather being, look out the window, what it's been for the last few months. Concrete does not cure well in the cold. It doesn't cure as quickly in the cold. So the timing for concrete curing during cold weather, in order to be able to finish it and provide the required levels of quality control, there's the potential for finishing of that concrete to be happening after hours. So I know there is a agenda item on town council's meeting on Monday relating to an ordinance for after-hours construction work. Within that, we are anticipating a 2-week public notice for the abutters through both a mailed notice, an email notification to anyone that is subscribed to our notification list, as well as a posting on the website. That'll be done 2 weeks prior to any anticipated after-hours work. Right now, we are anticipating at the end of March, early April, for anticipated after-hours slab pour durations. Anything, Mark, that you want to add to that?
No, you nailed it.
All right.
Okay. The agenda was sent to the town council last night, and, questions come up. One thing we all have to assume is that, even though we've discussed it at length with the town council, you have, that it's still, some people will be seeing this for the first time, either by watching the meeting or attending. So it's important, again, to just do a brief summary of what we talked about before, where, if the town council does grant this ordinance change, it won't set a precedent that would be dangerous to the town, where now many outside construction projects could be done, more frequently in the evening. That would be just municipal projects, one-offs like this, who'd have to go before the council for their approval. But also, Mark, you brought up a point that I think really resonated. If we don't do this, this will slow down the process tremendously. So it's, I know on time, on budget is probably the top priority. And, but that you made a statement during that how slow it would go from that point forward if we kept it just from the business hours, all right? So that's one clue I'll give you when you're at the meeting Monday night to when this comes up. You'll be getting those questions for sure.
Any questions?
Just a follow-up on clarification for Monday. I would just highlight where it says 12 expected major pours total, 4 anticipated after hours, what that will look like. And it's only 4, right? So it's not like you'll be going for 4 weeks. It's
4
4
nights.
evenings,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, it's actually 4 one-day impacts.
yeah.
And so it could be 4 weeks in a row, it could be 1 week, a 2-week gap, then another impact.
Yep.
2-week gap, then another impact. So it's not a continuous.
Yeah, and I
thing at
just
all.
think clarifying that, because sometimes when you do look at this, it you know, your mind goes to construction is ongoing,
Yeah.
right? So just being overly informative, I think will be helpful.
And it needs to be noted too, like, it's not a guarantee either. Like, the concrete could cure in time within the window of the ordinance, and it's not an issue. This is just us getting out in front, just letting everybody know ahead of time so that it's not a shock and awe type item.
Keep your fingers crossed for warm weather on those days.
I don't know, I heard there was going to be some 70-degree days in March, so schedule it after the
knows?
next snowstorm.
Who knows?
All right.
All right. I believe that takes us to the end of our update for the high school.
Yep, that brings us to new business C, discussion update, Curtis Corner Athletic Facility.
All right. I'll kick us off quickly just with schedule, and then I'm going to hand it over to Phil Conte to go through the presentation. As far as where we are here at the beginning of March, we are in the process of we have completed schematic design. We are in the process of getting those approvals and submitting schematic design to the School Building Authority. That is the directive that we're going to be requesting this morning, as well as at school committee next week, to be able to submit that package over to the School Building Authority as we move forward with the field design. As far as the demolition portion of the project, later in this meeting, we will be taking a look at some of the bid results that were received for the full demolition of the Curtis Corner Middle School. Just a quick, as far as the demolition goes, a quick few milestones. We are here this morning with Building Committee looking for a recommendation for that milestone, as well as moving forward with a discussion with Town Council Monday the 9th, and looking for a notice to proceed and mobilization on the 16th. All right, I will disconnect from sharing and hand it over to Phil.
So does mobilization mean that, like, starting the 16th, that building's going to start coming down?
So what that means is they are going to, in that window, we do have EPA notifications. There's a 10-day notification period. So after they get their notice to proceed after award, they would start that level of paperwork. So there's a minimum of 10 days before they can actually get in there and start any abatement work. But they'll probably start with removing of materials from the building, as well as taking down ceiling tiles, things that they know are not hazardous, to be able to expose areas that they will need to get into and do some abatement work.
But in theory, we're talking like April, first week.
The contractors we spoke with were consistent in that they would need about 2 weeks before you would see any individual on site, and it would become a construction site.
That's exciting to me.
I think, to Kate's point, is that the school department has a lot of stuff in that building. And so they're going to have to, this is the notice, I guess, right? It's going to have to be picked over rather quickly over the next month, because it's going to come down if.
Yes, and I did connect a colleague of mine in our move management department and within left field with Michael Pedraza, who has put him in touch with Joe Adams, the interim facilities director. I believe Tuesday they're going to go in, do a walkthrough, and I'll identify if there's anything they need to help to keep. Our team will be able to help them to come up with a plan for storage or relocation or movers or any of those items for kind of some of the critical pieces that want to be kept. It is important to note, though, that after these teams start abatement, there will not be access available into that building. So all contents will need to be removed before those contractors start the abatement process.
10-4. All right.
I want to be clear on that because I know I've been involved in the contractor process. I know one particular contractor, the one likely to be recommended, talked about selling and disposing whatever's remaining. So when you say emptied out, are we talking emptied out by the schools, or are we talking whatever they don't want, leave behind?
Correct, yeah, just taking what they want to keep.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want
They-
to.
we do not need to empty out the building. These contractors
We had
have,
action on the school committee level prior to ensuring that our policy in terms of disposal bids that it was included, or they knew that that would have been included in the demolition bid. And that's why certain things already had been identified with the potential plan at the time of maintaining certain rooms. We're now going through and culling that back even further. We really were being optimistic and wanting to make sure that the things that we did save were enough to, hey, if we needed to reopen a classroom somewhat that we had extra, we have what we need, and we'll be taking out those things in terms of whether that's required because they were bought with federal grants and we still have timelines. We're communicating with RIDE with things of that nature, but the vast majority is not essential and understood to be part of the demolition bid.
Kate, I spoke to you about this, but just to bring before the rest of the committee, so once again, this agenda item went out to the town council last night, and already I got some questions on it. And we have to assume that although they know most of the answers, some of the people watching and in the crowd will not. So the thing that has to be demonstrated to the council is why would our recommendation be, if it is, we haven't voted yet, well, we have, I'm taking the entire building down. Why are we doing that over saving? Because the initial discussion had that 18,000 square foot section we're keeping. So we need to repeat what we brought to the council last time. And I think that one would be the cost of saving that would be nearly $1 million compared to tearing the whole thing down or whatever that number is now. Two would be, it still would not be usable as is. You'd have open walls on either side, you'd have a roof caving in, and you'd have probably asbestos in there as well. So because the concern is, what is our plan for a field house at some point? Not at this moment, but at some point. Are we going to use temporary structure? Are we going to start looking for the future to build one, leftover funds and so forth? This is stuff that they're probably going to bring up as a discussion item to the people that are presenting that night. Okay?
yeah, we'll be prepared to have that discussion.
Phil, before you start, so the order right now of the agenda is recommendation for approval of schematic design for Curtis Corner Athletic Facility to include building and decision for full or partial building demolition. And then after that is recommendation of award for CCMS building demolition contract. Do you have a recommendation of which order should we do the demo contract first? Because that kind of is the determining factor of if it's going to be a full or partial, or does it not matter? We can kind of mush them. Okay. Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. I hope you had a chance to take a look at the presentation. If not, I'm excited to share it with you. I'm going to go very quickly through a number of these first slides, which is just a recap of what we've decided previously. I think it's important that the public is aware of the decision process that was made and what is going to be eventually constructed, reminding everybody that the fields are at Curtis Corner and that the anticipation is that we're going to completely demolish Curtis Corner in a follow-up discussion. We are improving the site drainage where the existing field is, because that is the approximate location of the new field. It is going to be an 8-lane track. It is going to have synthetic turf and a number of site amenities, including the lighting, bleachers, fencing, etc. Reminding everybody that the basis of design for our track system is a sandwich system that is encapsulated. It has a life expectancy, 10 to 12 years with maintenance. It does come at a slight premium in terms of lanes of good, better, best. This is the better lane. The reason that was chosen was because of its long-term durability, especially in the high wear zones that we would experience during the track season. It's reduced granular loss. It's easier to maintain, and it has a better tolerance for high public and community use. Things to keep in mind as we approach this is that the asphalt pavement part of this is most critical. Drainage has to be excellent. How you remove snow in the future is going to be important to maximizing its useful life. The footwear that the athletes would be wearing, or people as they are walking on the track are wearing, basically no metal spikes. And I've seen in other municipalities where there are signs that explain this thing to the public and the student athletes. It will require some routine cleaning and vacuuming, and it's important so everybody knows that RIDE will not reimburse when it is time to restore or replace this track in 10 to 12 years.
So the going back to the metal spikes, we would be permitting them for competition and for practice, right? For athlete practice, because the reason being, like, if you're going to have a high-end track for competition, if we banned the use of spikes for those, that would not go
Yeah,
over.
and that's, I was using that as an example.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is,
because I agree with you. Like, you don't
to-
want people in general using spikes on the track because it does increase the life expectancy. But there are times, especially for interscholastic league sports, where kids need to be able to do that.
Absolutely, yes. And there's an entire operations component to this that we would want to make sure is communicated to people who are using the track and field. For the field, we are pursuing a synthetic turf hybrid system. The infill is virgin rubber and sand. We are proposing a shock pad that is reusable over 2 life cycles of the turf field. It has a life expectancy of 10 to 12 years, again, with maintenance, and it does come, this system that we have selected and designed does come at a premium, and again, in terms of good, better, best lanes, this is in the better lane. And the reason why we have chosen this is because we do expect a high weekly use out of this field. We know that scheduling and tournament demands are going to be high, and we needed to have a dependable all-weather playability.
Sorry, Phil, just one more question. Have we decided yet on the ratio of the sand to rubber?
We have not. We have an athletic consultant that will be helping us
Okay,
with that,
so
and
so
there'll
that
be
can
some
come later?
follow-up discussions,
Okay.
yes. Again, there's some important features to keep in mind here, that drainage, again, needs to be excellent. And because we are raising the field elevation, we're going to be addressing any legacy issues as well. In terms of someone questioning whether a natural field or a synthetic field is safer, there is no proven safer surface for play. Again, footwear, chip will matter here as well, so we want to communicate that. In order to maintain student-athlete safety, we want to make sure that the field is maintained, it is groomed, and it is tested. Those questioning the composition of the fill, in 2024, the EPA published a report that there's no conclusive evidence that there is a major health risk from recycled rubber. That is irrelevant because we are using virgin rubber. So we have gone from the good to the better lane. And again, it's important to remind everyone that RIDE will not reimburse a replacement of this field in 10 to 12 years. All right, update the current site plan that we have of the Curtis Corner Athletic Field Complex. To the top of the image is the long jump area. Subsequent to this submission, we have had some more internal discussions, and we are proposing that we are going to widen that area where the long jumps are to give a little bit more room at either end. So you can imagine that surface expanding a little bit more to the left and right where the lights are. We have the 8-lane track, the field. We have a perimeter walkway. The bottom of the page is the current concession stands flanked by 2 500-seat new aluminum bleacher systems, as well as a new concrete flat plaza for future expansion. So when we approach the complex, recognizing that the overall site development is the next phase of the project, we do want to maintain a level of security around the entire perimeter. We also want it to be inviting to our guests. So we're thinking that we could have a nice ornamental fence and some features along the face of it as we're approaching the concession stands and the entrance. Highlight the field and the entrance. So let's talk about how people will enter onto the field. You see a series of turnstiles and a gate in between. We can have much more discussion about this, but we want to keep in mind we need a level of protection that would prevent someone from bringing a motorcycle or a motorized bike onto this track or field and tearing it up. How do you do that while still having it open to the community? So if someone wants to walk the track on a Saturday morning when nothing is happening there, I do not think operationally you're going to be locking and unlocking gates every day. So people would go through these turnstiles. So for all intent and purpose right now, the way this is set up, this track is open, accessible, not that it would be permitted, but it's accessible 24 hours, 7 days a week by a pedestrian. Now, it doesn't mean that's permitted, by the way, just saying. These are operational discussions you could have, but this is what we've typically seen as a way of controlling people, not allowing bikes onto the fields. That middle gate is a gate that would be open for handicap accessibility.
Phil, is it possible to widen that gate in the middle? The reason I'm asking is so when you're hosting a meet, you're going to have lots of teams there, especially if you're hosting a division or a class championship. It would be, people aren't coming on with bikes, right? Because you've got supervision there. It'd be easier to open that up so teams could just walk into the area for something like that.
Sure, and we're going to have more of this discussion because I think there are other features that may do that you just don't see in this image yet. So we'll talk about that. The location of these gates was our first response. We can talk about adding it or putting more in.
Going through those turnstiles, can families coming in, strollers, baby carriages, can you fit? I've not walked through one of those at a field before, so I can't actually remember the last time I walked through one of those kind of operators. So I'm just curious when it comes to bringing things in with you, like your child.
Yeah, so that is something I will make note of and check and see how a stroller fits through that's not maybe collapsed. We'll see what those limitations are, and at least make you aware of what the challenges are and or the risks that you... So I was just about to say, when there is a monitored event, supervised event, handicap accessibility is through the middle gate. However, let's say a handicapped person were to want to access this site on a Tuesday morning. That may become an operational issue where they would have to call somebody and somebody would be opening up that gate. There is no vandal-resistant handicap accessibility entrance. Similarly, if you pulled up at a gas station, for example, and it says for handicap assistance, press this button, and then an attendant comes out. Currently, the site is monitored by having the administration on site. So there are some operational things we'll need to talk about in detail here. The alternative to that is, well, we're just going to have it wide open. And then you have to be prepared to accept the risks of vandalism. So, all good questions. Thank you, Kate, as well, for further discussion with the group. Again, this is just a little closer version of that. We're trying to do this as economically as possible, but give some indication of branding and a sense of arrival and entrance. This is a view that was meant to show you where some of these challenges and opportunities are. For site civil planning, for example, you see to the far left that we will have some retaining wall to bring the elevation up of the field. And as I mentioned, we are looking to expand to the left and to the right the ends of the long jumps, bringing them to the lights. You also start to see here that there are two levels of fences. There is a perimeter fence that we have at about 6 feet. Then there is an interior fence at 4 feet. And you may want to have some discussions, is a double fence necessary? And I'll have some other views that we can have this discussion about to see what it translates to. For Chip and Terry, looking at the bleachers to the far right and to the far left, you see at the ends pathways. That at the end of those are gates that would lead to, right now is just a blank asphalt area. But we thought at the end of major events or for team events that those gates and that areas at the ends are where teams would either enter into the bleacher area or enter onto the track and field. So we'll talk about that a little bit more, and then we have a centrally located one right in the middle.
Just a question about the long jump and triple jump pits. Not the pole vault, but the long jump, triple jump. That'll be covered, right? Like so, most tracks come with like the covering for those pits.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's part of the package.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
We have a complete track and field package, including scoreboards and the goalposts and all of this track amenities.
Okay.
Phil, just one question. Ambulance access. Will there be? Or-
Yes, and that's why
Okay.
those two flanking pathways are each 24 feet wide, where we thought teams would enter onto the field, ambulance could enter onto the track and field at either end. And we have some close-up views of that as well. We do have a centralized track access point for those individuals that may come through concessions, but they want to walk to the far side and watch an event, and they would be walking around the perimeter. They would come down that centralized stair or ramp location. In this particular view, you see as well, we are including some kind of retaining wall structure because not only is the field is elevated, but we're also coming to the level of the concession stand. And right now we're showing a pre-manufactured retaining wall block. That may be, for this case, up against this concession stand and the bleachers, that may be better poured in place concrete. So we're talking to our site civil engineer about that as well. That was a comment brought by the town, which we thought was very good. This is just a view of the concession stand, the bleachers to the left. The bleachers are elevated, they are accessible. You see here in the view of the bleachers, stairs and ramps to get onto the bleachers for seating, handicap seating, companion seating. To the far right and to the far left, that plaza slopes down to the track, which is why there is that little section of gate and fencing on either side, because there's a drop-off there. Each one of those 24 feet wide with gates at the asphalt side and gates at the track side to be able to come all the way onto the field in the event of emergency at either end. We thought this would be a good way of separating home and visiting teams as well. You will pick a home side, you will pick a visitor side. Your band, for example, when they at halftime would want to come onto the field, they're not going to all come down this little ramp that's in the middle. They would come down on the ends, on the flanking sides where there's much more width. The teams, when they break off at halftime, each of them are separated, and you can control that a little bit more. Here again is a view just in front of the concession stand looking at one of the bleachers. One thing we did put here, we wanted to show, we extended the plaza significantly so that you could put, and boosters could put tents up, and there may be tournaments where you have multiple tents back there. Again, giving everybody a home and away opportunity or multiple opportunities for kind of tents in the back. Again, looking at the width between the bleachers, the walkway, and the track. So in many events, this pathway that circumvents the entire track, the black asphalt, on the bleacher side of the track. It's not uncommon to see people standing along this fence, taking pictures of the athletes. This is sometimes where cheerleaders sometimes wait to go onto the field or track for their activities.
So can we lock this area off to spectators for some events and not for others? So like, say, a lacrosse game where we don't want people down there, other than people that we're expecting to be down there, versus a track meet where you do want people spread out or all around it.
Yep, so right now, the only way to get to that perimeter walkway is, again, at either end, right, where we have major gates that could be secured, and at this center location. So right now, it's not secured, for example. People could certainly go through the concessions and go down those steps, and now they are in that area. This may be an operational...
Yeah, I would think we would want that secured so that we can choose which events people can go down there versus... Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like a human could be there.
Yeah. Right. So just so that we can as long as we have the ability to secure it, because some events we're going to want it and others we're not.
Yeah, I don't particularly like it just because of crowd control, especially, football games. Would be a problem, but we're gonna have to close that off. But that's, when I saw that, that was my only question, and I don't like that, but that's okay.
Yes, I hear you. I would probably just say within the industry, it's expected that you could get around the perimeter of a new stadium project like that. If you think, on the visitor side, the football team is on the other side, and maybe spectators, they certainly want to be maybe not closer to their children, to be on that side, to photograph things,
It's also an opportunity to ensure that people aren't walking across the track in cleats from other sports too, to the same degree. So not everyone has to cut across the field now to get to their location. So
Yeah,
I think
correct.
that's an important part, but we're just gonna have to make it work. But I think I see it at a lot of facilities that this is the expectation that you can walk all the way
that you
around
have access,
without,
yes.
Yep.
And it's at an elevation where if people are standing along the fence, they're not obstructing the view from the folks in the bleachers. Right, so you see it is down quite a bit from the deck of the bleachers and, of course, obviously the rising seating. This is a view from the bleachers. A view back. A view from the press box. Looking back in the bleachers, we would probably try to brand it with maybe the blue on the bottom of the bleachers, and then at the risers at the steps.
Phil, if I may, especially in terms of just what we're putting out there and then expectations of what's delivered. So all of this is, in many cases, or in most cases, new, but in terms of, as we look at the press box and facilities, it matches in terms of sprucing up of what's new around it. Will that be touched at all? In this design, would colors be updated? Would that be, refreshed at all?
Yeah, because that building looks very nice right there.
Yes, exactly.
And it's not.
I want to match expectations with what is delivered.
So this current project is focused on the track, the field, and the site amenities, bleachers, lighting, fencing, the plaza work.
So we would need to AI that to a more realistic, you know,
There will, and the whole strategy of this was to proceed it methodically so that we know what funds were available, so that the council and you all can decide how best to use any savings that may be. The remaining part of this is still the site improvements to the campus itself, where at that time it would be prudent to plan for any future field house, or that would be the appropriate project to address refreshing the concession stand at that last project when we know what funds are available and you all can decide.
so currently, features that remain as is.
Correct.
Thank you.
Hey, Phil, just a suggestion for the council's benefit. I think very first, at the outset of the presentation, outlining what the plan is, because, you know, they may not be fully in the loop of this is a three-stage process, what is involved in each one of those processes, and putting it out up front that while you're seeing the concession upgraded, that would be a discussion for stage 3, as well as the field house, as well as parking, site access, et cetera. We're focused right now, this is stage 2 on these elements. So it kind of sets the tone for your presentation, because I don't know if that's, you're weaving it in, but I don't think it's, you know, to the punchline up front for the council's benefit.
Perfect.
Fair.
Gotcha.
Phil, just to follow up on that, I think what happens to us, especially here in our group, is we're in the weeds, and we've been in the weeds with the high school project, and it's kind of like, it's gotten to the point, oddly, that is common vernacular for all of us, right? But the council and the school committee both, they're, like, a year has gone in between the last time we talked schematic design and, like, to Luke's point, the different stages of the process. So where this is right now, what we envision or is being envisioned, but once we move through the stages, things will change. Similarly, that to what the process clearly on a bigger scale with the high school. So people will look at this like this is the final destination, and it's not necessarily. This is just where we are visioning and building off of, and it will be refined through the course of the planning.
Got it.
But I think because, like, again, we all kind of are used to this conversation now, just because it's part of our weekly discussion.
Okay. Excellent. There was talk about the opportunity for storage, and we have successfully used shipping containers under the bleachers for some secure storage. So we wanted to demonstrate that we could fit a couple of those under each side, and again, leaving you plenty of areas for tents, for events and functions, etc. Giving you a lot of plaza space to manage the general public.
Phil, just, and it's a small detail, but those containers, how will they be accessed? Are they like garage door
Yeah,
open?
yeah, we would put garage doors at the short ends right here behind a secure fence. So you would access under the bleachers, and then you would access either container. Yeah, it's symmetrical.
I think it's a good point, though, Terry, because I've had these when you stack all the hurdles and everything, and the stuff's at the back of the container. Just something we may want to look at is putting a door on the side, like a larger bay door, custom door, so you can access the middle and go out.
Okay.
So stuff gets, just my experience is like you want it that one piece of equipment, and it's in the back of a 30-foot container, so.
Yeah, or if it's possible to have the garage doors on both sides, and because if it's accessible on both sides.
So I would probably say, because of the length of the bleachers, we are. I'm not saying it's impossible.
If
but-
there were a gate like in the middle there, that like, you know, you can keep locked, but like you can go into it and then you can go left or right. Like it's just another thought for
Yes.
that, for those items that you're talking about in the back loop, because that does happen in tight garages or in these containers.
Absolutely, we can talk more about that to make sure we get the right container and the right location for the doors. This is just an overall view. You see in the lower left-hand corner the walkway that I was talking about that is sloped at a sidewalk elevation that gets you from the plaza, the back of the plaza, that would get you to the perimeter walkway, and then you could have gates all the way to the left at the street, then at the perimeter, and then again at the track for ambulance to be able to get onto the field, or team members or bands, etc.
As long as it's big enough to get an ambulance, that'll be important.
So we made each one 24 feet wide,
Perfect.
which is
Okay.
fire lane width.
And I just clarifying what you just said, you're coming down that lane, right? There's the double gates to get onto the field, but is there a gate from the parking lot to the lane?
Yes, so maybe you can see
Like
it
right
here
here?
in the upper left-hand corner to the far left of the plaza.
Yep.
That would be a set of double gates
okay.
that could be opened up. So at the end of an event, you want everyone to go out. So you'd open up that side, you'd open up the other side, and then anybody that wants to go out the way they came in, which I would doubt. I think they're all going to mass exit on either side through very large openings.
And kind of on that topic, I'm curious if it's practice or if it's not feasible, but to have access on the right side of the field in some way, shape, or form, if we wanted to get people en masse off the track, or there was some sort of emergency where you needed somebody to be able to get out this way instead of having everybody en masse going that way. I don't know if that's standard or if it's possible.
So so to the left and to the right at the end zones.
No, I'm saying over here by the tree line, by the pits over here. Is there a way, so let's say something catastrophic is happening, and I won't even suggest what it might be. We can use our imagination. And it's coming from the parking lot, and we want people going that way. And we, instead of jumping the fence, are there exits on this side where the lights are and where these two pits are to be able to get off that way as well?
We certainly could put, well, then,
There's nowhere to go that way
I'd
either.
rather go
That's-
into the woods,
So-
you know?
Yeah.
so that, yes, we can, but I would expect that they would be locked during all times so that people cannot enter onto the field
Yeah.
without going through.
It'd be
the-
emergency use only. You get someone run over there, unlock, and let's go.
Yes. We
This
can-
I just want to make sure all bases are covered and
And-
because
and-
to me, you're a caged animal,
You are.
right?
Yes,
So,
you are making a secure
Yeah.
site,
yeah.
albeit it is
I'm a
exterior.
little claustrophobic, so.
I think, and I will not be surprised that during construction, when this starts to surface, and you see how close we are to some forested wetlands or other constraints, that, you know, you may or may not decide that that's a viable option or something like that. But it's much more expansive than what's currently there.
Because right now, we have gates, we have many gates. We don't just have like entering, we have them on the opposite ends so the equipment can be brought in and out. So whereas this kind of just forces everything to come off from the parking lot.
So this is schematic design. right?
Yes.
So we're going to have many more discussions presumably on gates, on where certain locations are, et cetera. You know, I already made some comments to you in the background. Fence, there's a double fence here, do we need a double fence? So just to be clear, we're going to have other opportunities, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's this is a double-edged sword when we show images like this. It's important for you to understand what we're talking about, but it also easily lends itself to asking questions like, where's the gate?
For the pole vault pits,
Is that these over here?
yes, on the left, yep. Yep, so my question related to that is, are we going to have coverings for those as part of this package so that they can be set up at the start of the spring season and remove, we'll have to have storage for them at the end of the season, but moving those on a near daily basis from storage to there is going to be very challenging. So what a lot of places do is they have covering so that it can be out in the weather. So is that included in the package?
I will say if that is a project parameter, then yes, it will be.
Okay, yeah, because I think that's really important. High jump mats can be moved relatively easy, but the pole vault, not so much.
Yes, and I could easily see that we would have our athletic consultant and you and Terry, we could just have a number of check-ins on some small items that are important that you want to make sure are covered in the specifications. I'm just running through a couple of images here. Again, showing you that we are coming out of the ground significantly on the right side, which is where we are abutting some existing wetlands. So our civil engineer is working with all of that. This is sort of a closer-up view of what I was talking about, the pathways that would allow vehicles or large teams, bands, to get onto the track and field, and also gates at the ends for these mass exit. One on either side, home and visitor. So our schematic design cost right now, site work is about 1.25 million, track is $1 million, field is 1.75, and the site amenities, bleachers, fencing, field lighting, plaza, scoreboard is $2 million. So we're around a $6 million project right now.
Can I just add, and I love everything that place looks like, but there are 4 components that are missing that I think need to be upgraded, and they're not on site, they're up on the other field. It would be a shot put, discus, hammer throw, and javelin runway that I think need to be added if we're going to have meets in the future, division meets, whatever they may be. Those need to be upgraded as well. So can that be part of this?
And you're saying they're staying where they are, upgrading them where they stand?
Yeah. Because that's like, building a $1 million house around a 1975 bathroom.
Sure, it's a very good point. Here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to, number one, talk to our athletic consultant. He'll probably want to come out and take a look at those things. I'd like to hear from him whether those improvements are specific to the type of contractor that is doing this track and field, and have that information. Because if he says, well, no, they need to be improved, but it doesn't need to be this type of site contractor that's doing that, that gives you some more opportunities to roll that into the final phase that we're doing, the site work project. If he comes back and he says, oh, Phil, those are so specific that it needs to be done by the same guy that would be doing this long jump, then I'll bring that back to you, and then we can have that discussion. So let me do a little bit of homework and come back, but you bring up a very good point, right? You're going to have this Class A facility, but not all of the features are up to par.
So for the sake of So Kate has a little bit of a time constraint, so what I'm hoping we could do, unless people are done with this particular item, but I don't think we are, if we could put a pin in this discussion and action for the moment and move into the award for CCMS building demo contract, because Kate has a 9/10 hard stop. We can keep going, but I just want to make sure we get that bid situation.
Do we need a vote to recommend this to the council or to the school? Because you're submitting to RIDE, correct?
Yeah, a motion to approve this submittal to RIDE.
Okay.
Can it be amended, though? If we send it, yes?
This is just for schematic design.
Okay.
Been back here a number of times.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I guess my question is, if we wanted to just keep discussing with Phil about that, we could. She just has a hard stop.
It's up to the committee. I'm willing to make the motion because I don't know if, like, for a schematic design to get it to RIDE, I don't know if there's much that can be solved today.
Yeah,
So I'm
that's
willing to
fine.
make the motion to recommend that it be submitted to RIDE as part of the 60% approval process.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Done. Thank you. All right, Kate, recommendation of award of the CCMS building demolition contract.
Thank you, yes. So last time we discussed Curtis Corner, we were looking at bid results for a partial demolition with an alternate for full demolition of the Curtis Corner Middle School. The partial demolition would have left a portion of the building, we would have put ends on it, but it would have been an unoccupiable building, meaning that it does not meet the heating, ventilation requirements or life safety requirements to have people occupy that space for any amount of time. So the intent was that it would be utilized for storage. Based on the cost and condition, additional studies were held of A, what would an additional cost be from a general contractor for a full demolition. So we did receive those costs. It was roughly $1 million less. And because of narrowing down after the building committee made a move forward with full demolition of Curtis Corner Middle School, we rebid the demolition portion because it opened it up to demolition contractors, not just general contractors. So those are the bids that we'll be reviewing today. We received 7 bids for the full demolition, and that does include restoring the field back to a grassy state after the building is down. The low bidder was Bill Ray Corporation at $675,000. So just a point of comparison.
Kate, can you zoom in on the pricing, please?
Sure can, yes. Is that better? All right. All right. Oh, too far. All right, so that is the low bidder, $675,000. So I took a look at where we were with the partial demolition as well as the savings from rebidding the project. So the partial demolition, the low bidder was $2,684,000. So, and then with that alternate for partial demolition, their price went down to $1,614,000. So the savings for full demolition versus partial demolition with the rebid is $2,009,000, and the savings from rebidding it is $939,000.
And so if we decide to go forward with the partial demo, that does not include, the pricing does not include securing the building.
It includes adding masonry ends onto the building and adding freeze protection into the building. But in order to do a full renovation of that building to make it an occupiable space, it was about $4 to $5 million in renovation costs to have students be able to use that building.
Okay.
And that was not factored into this, so that would have been a future fundraising effort.
Is there any way that we can see more information
Yes.
than those two numbers?
Yeah.
But also, like, is there any way to, I don't know, get rid of this thumbnail and be able to zoom in on on your scoring and on your requirements or something when it comes to this view? Just so we can see, yes, I want to see the total bid amount, but I would also love to see other information.
Yes. So this is a lowest responsive bidder award. So qualifications were not necessarily a scoring factor. They were a consideration, but not a scoring factor. So what we took a look at is all of the paperwork that was submitted. We required that they acknowledge the addenda. They had several affidavits. They had to meet prevailing wage. They had to provide their minority and women business enterprise utilization plans, their staffing plans and schedules. So all of the documentation that was requested, everybody forgot a little bit of something, but the paperwork that some of the bids were missing, they were able to submit. It was not material to the substance of their bid, therefore it was still acceptable. And then taking a look at the minority utilization as well, we were not able to award to anybody that did not provide a minimum intent of meeting the 7.5% women, 7.5% minority business enterprise goals. I did, however, go through and call the low three bidders, their references. All of the people that they have worked with had positive things to say about each of the companies that they listed for references. We also did meet with the low three bidders, Bill Ray, AA Wrecking, and Mancini Demolition, to make sure that they could meet our schedule, they met all of our project requirements, and that they captured the full scope of work within their bid, and it was a full and complete bid.
It's just, why are they so low compared to the other ones? So is Bill Ray and AA Wrecking are to me, that's a significantly lower. Like, why is that a red flag?
So that's why we scope reviewed them. How a contractor comes up with their pricing isn't necessarily something we can qualify them on. As long as they have agreed to capture the full scope of work, I think they're family-owned companies, so that plays a role in why they're able to keep their pricing low. There's also the difference between a general contractor, which has a lot more overhead, than just a straight demolition contractor that is able to perform a lot of the work themselves versus having to hire other companies to perform work.
I think it's a point you need to make up front, like have a separate slide with the previous bid process and this bid process. Not only by booting the building did we save the money on the building itself, but we also allowed other contractors more specialized in demolition only to enter the process, which was a problem the last time we bid. And we knew that because after that bid, we saw that those contractors struggled to incorporate the other work.
Yes.
So by doing this, we saved not only on the building cost, but we incorporated more bidders, which really drove down the cost. And Bill Ray's a perfect example. So to the point, you don't have to pay prevailing wage to family members. So he's got sons and others who work for him, so he can drive down the cost. So there's some other nuance that comes into bidding that we brought that into the process when we rebid. So clearly that was the right decision to.
Yes, yeah,
make the extra
and Bill
2
Ray,
weeks.
we did meet with Bill Ray. We met Patrick Emery, the environmental hygienist, as well as Sam Hemingway, the civil engineer, Phil and myself, and Luke. We all met with Bill Ray, AA Wrecking, and Mancini to just verify, because I agree with you, there was a big spread in a lot of the numbers, to verify that they did capture the full scope of work. And they did, in fact, capture the full scope of work, and are planning to move forward with the abatement plans in the way that the project is specified and within the requirements of the EPA.
Does anybody have any other clarifying questions?
I would just like to know, because as I go through those, it seems like on some of the yeses and the nos alternate a little bit, specifically on staffing, specifically catches my eye, staffing plan. Could you just explain to me what that means, or what that category and certification? So if we take Bill Ray and AA Wrecking, they alternate their yes and nos on the required documents on the last two elements.
Yes, yeah, so the staffing plan is how their staff is going to be working on the plan. They provided their list of subcontractors. Bill Ray provided a list of subcontractors. They also provided resumes for the people that work for them. They just didn't provide the list of who's going to be doing what, essentially.
Kate, the last questions I asked before, earlier on, so there's one piece that I think the council will be asking as well. We know we're saving substantial money by going to a direct demolition company, if that's the case. We know it would cost between $4 to $5 million to upgrade if we kept the existing 18,000 square foot portion of the Curtis Quarter Middle School. But I'm sure a question would come up by one or more or all the council. Suppose, what would be a rough estimate of building a new field house? So if we're saving $1 million to $2 million by going direct demolition, we're saving $4 to $5 million to renovate the 18,000 square foot. What would it cost in a rough estimate? I'm sure that question will come up.
Yeah, we can look into that. There was some initial planning efforts done early in the project for a building that would have been funded by the boosters, so we can provide some rough order
And
of
the point has
magnitude
to be made,
information.
it's not reimbursable.
Correct.
Right? That's the other point. And the other thing is, if, I'm sure in their minds, they're going to be thinking, if we're saving this substantial amount of money, what would it cost extra to build a field house, which is what they would be looking for?
Yeah, we can get some rough order of magnitude. And just as a reminder, the initial plan all along was for a full demolition of Curtis Corner, and the field house was never part of the original plan. So this is, the option that we're looking at right now really is more true to what the original plan was. But we do have some initial studies that we could put rough order of magnitude to be able to understand what a future project could look like.
Total cost, so like we're looking at those other numbers, right? You were at 6 million, right? And then say $675,000. Is that what we're looking at right now of like total cost of this project?
For
If
the
we approve
demolition
that.
portion. Yeah, 675 would
And-
be the cost for demolition and having a grass field
And we
remaining.
budgeted 11 for this project, is that accurate?
11 is total for all of Curtis Corner. We
Yeah.
had budgeted $3 million for the partial demolition.
Yeah, so call it $6,675,000, right?
Yes.
What other items are there that would be towards that 11 million? I'm asking because you mentioned,
Yeah.
about the possibility of a field house, and I'm not saying that that's where we're going here, but
Okay,
just-
so we had budgeted $3 million for the partial demolition and abatement, $5 million for the fields, $2 million for site work not related to the fields regarding drive lanes, parking, any other site upgrades outside of the field area, and then a contingency of $1 million.
So am I accurate in that we're like over $4 million lower than that? Or am I missing something?
So the field construction right now is at $6 million. So we are about
Okay,
$1
so
million
that's
over in
sorry,
field
yep,
construction. Yeah, the site work is a different portion. That's a future project. That's relating to parking and drive lanes throughout the site, not the site work within the field itself.
Okay, so that is not the site we're referring to.
Correct,
Okay, so
that's
we're
correct.
Over on the field construction.
But
we'd be
significant.
well under on
Yeah.
the demolition
Well
and
under
abatement,
on demolition and
right?
abatement, correct.
So a net under in that case by a pretty significant amount of money,
Yeah.
by about 2 million. We still have that additional site work to do, which we haven't.
Yeah,
right,
that was
and-
going to be designed, that's
and then
really
the
the
$1
third
million
leg of the
contingency,
project.
right?
Yeah, the site work is the third leg of the project that will be developed really with understanding what we have left within the project to understand how in-depth we can get with that portion.
I just want to be cautious with saying savings at this point, because when we originally bid this or estimated this project, we were over, right? And so we were looking at not being able to do some of the site work, like parking and whatnot. So we're not sure what that phase is, but Phil, again, going back to your presentation, I think it'd be good, you had an image that showed those 3 phases, that kind of boxes around them, and showed the drive coming in, parking, other things. I think it's good to get in people's mind, there's a whole nother phase that we need to afford before we start talking about adding on even more stuff, because we got to be able to get into the site, out of the site appropriately, and then that site's never had appropriate parking, so that's going to cost us.
Do we need to
some funds.
vote before Kate leaves?
We should, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I can. Yeah. Nope. Got you. make a motion to approve the bid for the, was it Bill Ray? Is that the company that? $675,000 for the total demolition and abatement of Curtis Corner.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So that recommendation will go forward to town council. Thank you, Kate. Don't speed. Okay, does anybody have any other comment or discussion that they want on these two, particularly on these two items? We kind of cut short, and I feel like we were in the middle of a conversation. So if anybody has any other thoughts, I know I do. I just want to make it clear from the get-go, and there seems to be a misunderstanding that has come at us that we, from the beginning, were going to have an operational facility at Curtis Corner for the athletic fields, and that was not part. It was a pie in the sky. It was like, oh, this would be great, but it was never part of the plan. So I want to make sure that we're clear about that when we are in front of the town council, because it wasn't going to be a building that the athletes were going to be able to use. It was going to you've said it many times, it's going to be a shell. It's going to be, secure, and yes, storage could have taken place in it, but human beings weren't going to be accessing it until another project team came together to design a field house, and they're going to renovate that one or what have you. So this has kind of always been an ongoing fuzzy area since the very beginning, going back 2 years ago. So I want to make sure that's clear when the conversation starts. So to me, that's another project. As far as, yes, we need storage, maybe we need temporary structure, whatever. But as far as a field house, and I also think we have to be careful of the word field house. It's not
That's
a field
the
house.
wrong word. A
It's
field house to me is an indoor track, a
Correct.
football field, the whole 9 yards.
Yes.
This is just a building where we can put people.
Yeah, like an athletic building. Like the admin building, the athletic building, something. We just need to be cautious about setting expectations, because we clearly didn't set them appropriately from the get-go. And so, but it's another project.
And I agree with you, but my only point is if we're, I don't want to use the word savings because I was told not to, but if we're not getting to that $11 million, which we had budgeted, why can't we use some of that for it? That's my point.
I think that's something we can explore, right? So if we just are recommending we go with the 675, that opens up, I don't do math well, but just under 2 million, or just about 2 million of savings from that line item that maybe can be utilized if it's not, maybe that's part of the site work, I'm not sure, but just to explore some sort of structure if possible.
Yeah. At the appropriate time, when bids are received for the athletic field, you will further know. Right now, we're saying 6 million. That could be 6.5 million, or it could be 5.5 million. More information will develop, so you all can make the most informed decision. One comment I want to make to make sure everyone understands what to expect to see at Curtis Corner when the building comes down. We made a conscious effort to maintain, at least for right now, the little section of parking that is to the far right of Curtis Corner, as well as the turnaround and parking in the front that is along Curtis Corner Road, for two reasons. One, it will help mobilization for the major athletic field contractor that he will have laid down and parking area. Also, make sure you have as much parking in the interim as possible in that general area until Phase 3 is fully developed, where that parking may go away because it's been turned into this. So.
Thank you. Anybody else at the table have any questions, comments, concerns? Okay. That brings us to community comment. If you want to have, as a community member, if you have anything you'd like to comment about.
I'm going to be very brief. I'm sorry I wasn't here for the beginning of the presentation. I think there were two things to focus on, and this is somewhat redundant from all of your comments. This committee has this well in hand. One is communication Monday night with the council. This is all good news. Facts on the ground change, you change your plan. I think as long as we have a process moving forward that's well explained to the council and the public, I think you're fine. If it stays in budget and this facility is ready for Terry in September of '27 when the school opens, I think that's all to the good. The other part of it is expectations, and you addressed this already. There has been this perception that the reason we were leaving part of Curtis Corner intact, the building intact, was to have some facility for the athletes who are participating in things and maybe other stuff. But it was all very nebulous 2 years ago back on the school committee. If you explain to the council and to the public that you're in the process, particularly after a win of substantially reduced demolition costs, to now take a step back and reassess, and Phil's done a good job in explaining the possibilities. Fieldhouse definitely is the wrong term, and that, to the extent that you can dispel that in communicating to the council and public, I think that's a good thing. Whatever we wind up with is going to be a recommendation from this committee for what works in budget, what works in time, and what's appropriate for the kids. That's what we're looking for. But thank you for all this.
All right, that brings us to our next meeting, which I have as, thank you, Mike, as it would be the 19th, again, 8 o'clock in the morning. I personally will not be in attendance, so Michael, if you can make sure that works for you to be here and be able to open and close the meeting, that'd be great.
Yeah, I won't be here as well. The League of Cities and Towns Conference is that day.
Okay.
Speaking of it.
Does the 19th work for everybody else? Okay, perfect. All right. SBC. Michael, should we also be ensuring that Joe has been officially assigned to this team and also gets sworn in by the council?
Not at this time. In the capacity, unless the committee feels differently, in the capacity of interim, there's a abbreviated window that he's currently serving in this role for, and that position is being posted. So, in terms of bringing in, we're going to go through a process to fill that vacancy, and so unless I'm in communications with him directly.
Yep.
So in terms of becoming a voting board member, I think the
We'll just
next
leave-
time we do that, I want
With
it needs to be
the
as-
full-time person?
Yes.
Good, perfect. All right, so outside of that then, next meeting is scheduled for March 19th, 8 o'clock here. And I will be open to a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, we are adjourning at 9:27.
Luke, you want?